Hello everybody and welcome to another New Player Guide, the series where we open up a hero's pack, we look at the 15 cards that make up their kit, the obligation, the Nemesis Kit, so that we understand what they bring to Marvel Champions and what they're going up against. Additionally, crammed in between that, we also have a example deck so that if you are new to the game, this is a deck that you can take. It will have the core set, the hero pack, and at most 3 other packs, just to kind of give you next steps of maybe I want to pick up this campaign box, maybe I want to pick up this hero kit. All of that to say, let's get into it. Let's talk about Magneto, Master of Magnetism. I do have a pack opening video for this from back in November, but I'm excited to talk about him now that I actually have some experience with him and really get down to the nuts and bolts of what makes up Erik Lehnsherr. And that's where we're starting with Erik Lehnsherr, a 3 recovery mutant with alter ego, with the survivor ability, which is a response after you change to this form. Oops, did I? Just a piece of dust there. Okay. After you change to this form, shuffle the top 3 cards of your discard pile into your deck. So this is nice. It's just a recursion piece. I know at some point I had talked about in a different video about, and maybe it was actually about Magneto himself, just about his recursion ability. And if he was like the best recursion, I think at some point I realized that he was not, that there was other heroes that also do recursion, like the Wasp, which is really good, and War Machine also has really good recursion, and I want to say there was one other one, and I'm just blanking on it now, but he also has a 6 hand size, 10 hit points. There's not a lot more to this side. Obviously he does recur a little bit, which is going to be helpful because his other side does some discarding off the top of the deck. So let's get into that. Let's talk about Magneto, because I think that he's far more exciting. And so we have Magneto, a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense hero, very well rounded, with the X-Men trait and the magnetic pull action, which causes you to discard cards from the top of your deck until a magnetic card is discarded. Add that card to your hand, limit once per round. He's got 5 hand size and 10 hit points. And I would actually say that he more or less has 6, and he has 6 with a very selective 6th card. He is able to generally pull out quite a few many cards, and I'm trying to think who it was. I want to say that maybe this was an episode of The Winning Hand where Magneto was discussed. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm completely blanking on where this was. Somewhere, and if I think about it, I will once again edit it in. Maybe put a link in in the top up here. Somewhere in the last week or two, I had seen an interview or just an episode of a YouTube video of some kind where somebody said that they played with a 50 card Magneto deck because it allowed them to spread out the number of things they would discard with magnet pull as they were looking for that magnet card. And this feels like it might have been a Villain Theory video. It might have been a Winning Hand video. I think that was the full extent of the kind of stuff I've watched. I'm sorry. And this is a wild tangent, but either way, just being able to reliably have a magnetic card, and his magnetic cards are potent. Let me look here real quick. Of the 15 cards in his kit, yeah, all of them are magnetic. So a hero's kit is generally the juiciest part of what they're able to do. And while there might be cards that you will favor over others, this is consistent. This is going to be very helpful. And as we looked at with his other side, the only hang up here is that this is just the top 3 cards of your discard pile. It's not any 3 cards, it's the top 3. So you will be able to put some of those cards that you got rid of back into your deck, and you may end up hitting them again with Magnet Pull, but you know that you are going to reliably get the cards that make Magneto, what Magneto is, that make him just a fun hero, make him powerful. On a power rating, I don't know that I would put him extremely high, but I will say that I have found him to be very well rounded and the kind of hero that you can put any kind of foundation around him, and as long as it's a sound foundation, you should be pretty good. But let's move into his kit. But before we do that, let's talk briefly about some recommendations. And unfortunately, as I have discovered through another YouTuber, YouTube is not necessarily in love with the fact that you support other creators by putting links to them in the description. So I'm just going to say that if you enjoy this kind of content, basically Marvel Champions content in general, go look at Solo Marvel Champion, go look at Ray Plays Games, go look at creators like the Daring Lime, and like I already mentioned, Villain Theory, but then also there are podcasts out there like Critical Encounters and The Winning Hand. Logos are up on screen, go find them, and unfortunately, in terms of just getting monetized, YouTube for some reason does not want us doing that, and I don't get it. I'm guessing it probably has something to do with channels that want to recommend other channels that they're linked to in this weird knot of things, but I'm just trying to support the community. And so go look these guys up. I long-winded explanation for just a simple thing of I want to support the community, and it'd be great if you supported them too. First up, we have 2 copies of Wrapped in Metal, a 2-cost upgrade, which has got the magnetic trait and can only be played in hero form, attached to a non-elite minion. Attached minion cannot activate. Treat its printed text box as though it were blank. So for the most part, Nemesis minions are elite. There are a few notable ones. The one that stands out to me is Loki. He's not elite. So that is one avenue where you're kind of going to be unable to do anything. But this is very helpful in just the fact that, like, the Sentinels, I don't believe there are any Sentinel minions that are elite, so you should be able to just wrap them in metal, make it so that they're not doing anything. The only thing that is a setback here is that this will take off victory. And once again, I don't think that there are too many elite or non-elite minions that have victory. But if for some reason they're given victory or something, if they're given it by a different route, don't take my word on that. That's one thing. But if it's printed on there, if victory is printed on there in some context, Wrapped in Metal lands on them, they lose victory, and so they will go to the discard pile. All that to say, I still think that is a major caveat onto what is a pretty fun card. Being able to basically set a minion aside and go, I'm not going to worry about you, is great. You just get to let them sit there. They don't get to do anything, literally, and they don't get to have some kind of weird negative effect on the game. For the most part, things like the Sleeper from the Red Skull, I believe that's elite. Actually, I should look that up. Either way, there are elite minions that this will not affect, and so they will not break the scenario. But for the most part, when you have a minion like a shield officer from the new box or what have you, this will just make it so that they don't do anything, that any negative effects they have go away. Obviously, like the vulnerable trait or the vulnerable a keyword that makes it so that they get stunned or confused, they get discarded, that goes away. This overall does so much good that any negatives are just things that you're going to have to take into account when you are making decisions. But for the most part, I would say that this is going to be something that's going to be beneficial, and you're going to want to just wrap in metal a minion that's just kind of getting in your way. Then we have 2 copies of a combo card with Wrapped in Metal, Magnetic Missile, which coincidentally is also shares its name with a card from the Magneto scenario in the original X-Men box. Yeah, so Magnetic Missile is a 1-cost event magnetic superpower, and has a hero action of discard a minion with Wrapped in Metal attached, deal 5 damage to an enemy, and stun it. So a lot of hubbub was made initially when the hero pack came out. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a really cool combo. And then like the community kind of turned out and said, actually, this isn't as strong of a combo as we all took it to be. And I think that it's healthy to recognize that it is a combo. It's not a extremely strong combo, but it is something that can take a problem minion and just turn it into an attack for you. And yeah, it's not great that this is an event. Actually, it's not even marked as an attack now that I look at it. But this is an event that does rely on another event. That said, I feel like you're really splitting hairs if you're just like, oh man, this combo takes multiple pieces. Like, it's not a big deal. Like that's what a combo is. A combo is the meeting of 2 things. Like obviously it's not welding. It's not the meeting of 2 metals and like putting them together with heat. But a combo obviously is the combination of 2 cards. So the fact that Magneto just comes with a combo in his hero kit is pretty cool. I would say that being able to, for 3, eliminate a minion, deal 5 damage to another enemy, and stun that enemy, that seems pretty good. It's not the best thing you can be doing with three resources. I suppose you're probably doing this with 5 resources, because you got to play this card out, plus another card to pay for it, plus wrapped in metal, plus the 2 cards to pay for it. So you are using up a lot of resources, but at the same time, like, this is a story maker. Like, this isn't like the efficiency. This is making a story, and that's what I think is really important. And we got 2 copies of Metal Shards, which you may want to do over trying to string together a combo, honestly. It is a 3-cost event. Attack, magnetic, superpower, hero action, attack, deals 7 damage to an enemy. If this attack defeats that enemy, gain a tough status card. So ironically, this is cool. This is fun, and I would even say that for the most part, you probably want to skew towards playing this in a time when you will gain a tough status card. But my most relatable, or my biggest story with this card has less to do with Magneto and more to do with Rogue. And I will say that Magneto and Rogue make a pretty good team up. But having Rogue be able to use, I think it's like superpower adaptation or whatever, but to be able to grab Metal Shards out of Magneto's discard pile and do this so that she can gain a tough status card, that was a really fun moment. And additionally, I will say that Rogue being able to play with Magneto and being able to take an enemy that's wrapped in metal and doing magnetic missile from a minion engaged with somebody else that Magneto set you up, and then you just throw the minion at them, that's fun. But yeah, Metal Shards I have played, and I've had the most success with Rogue. That said, this is just cool. This is just a cool event. You get to deal 7 damage. You get to gain tough status card most of the time. 7 damage should defeat an enemy. And if you're going up against the villain and they're the ones that you're dealing damage to, you're not going to defeat them, but you're probably taking out, if you're in solo, you're taking out like half their health. If you're in a multiplayer table, you might be taking out a quarter of their health, but still, that's a substantial amount of health. And now we've got the Thunderbolt minions, and they have 2 digits of health. And so an attack like this, like every other 3-cost event that's an attack, is just going to be doing good work. And I think that the art is stellar on this. The effect of it is really cool. For the cost of 1 extra damage, you're potentially getting a tough status card, and I think that makes for a pretty good time. Then we've got 2 copies of Electromagnetic Blast, 2-cost event, magnetic superpower, thwart, hero action, remove 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, you may discard an attachment with the text hero action or hero response on it. So a lot of acclaim for Sunfire in mind. I think this effect is really cool. This is one where I'm not necessarily worried about getting that second effect, but when you need it, it's a great option to be like, okay, I guess I will use Magneto to thwart for 2, get this into range, Electromagnetic Blast, and that way I can get rid of a hero action, hero response attachment that is messing me up. And when you can do that, and you don't have to, because obviously those kinds of effects normally need you to exhaust or use a very specific kind of energy, a very specific kind of resources to get rid of them. To just be able to roll with it and say, I'm going to make progress here, and I'm also going to handle this attachment, is just great. That is the dream, but I also would say that it's not like, you don't have to get consumed by that. You can just use this as a kind of run-of-the-mill remove 3 threat from a scheme thwart event and just be fine with it. I will say that of the cards we've looked at thus far, I feel like this might be the one that is like a coin flip. I'm either very excited when I pull this with Magnetic Pull, or I'm like, no. We all know this kind of card. We've seen it before. Then we've got 2 copies of Master of Magnetism, a resource that makes a energy and a genius resource. So it is magnetic, so you can pull it with Magnetic Pull. This is just nice to have. Anytime you can get a double resource, it's good. Beyond that, there's not too much more to say about it. It's just a energy resource. It's just a resource. and it can help, especially in situations where if you are, let's say you are in Justice and you have the 3 steps ahead that cares about how many different resource types you use. This is just nice because it covers 2 of them. Not much more to say. It is just a resource, and that's cool. Moving on to the one-ofs, we've got Asteroid M, a 2-cost support, location magnetic. With the alter ego action of Exhaust Asteroid M, shuffle the topmost magnetic card in your discard pile into your deck and heal 1 damage from your identity. So I will say that he has 3 recovery with 10 health. So this does help because that's 40% of your... I guess, okay, it's of 2 minds. You don't have to be recovering when you're an alter ego, but if you are, this allows you to just get a little bit of a step up. When you flip down to alter ego, you can do this to gain 1 life back real quick and get a magnetic card back. Not to mention the fact that you will have already shuffled in 3 more cards. So that probably means that if you have 2 magnetic cards in the top 4 or 5 cards of your discard pile, you're going to get both of them back, very likely. If not, you will guarantee to get both of them back, or you will very likely get both of them back. But then just being able to heal 1, next turn you heal another 1, you get another magnetic card back, you flip over to Magneto, you do magnetic pull, and you've got just the cream of the crop there. I will say this interacts very, very well with his alter ego, very, very well with his identity, in ways that I do think that alter ego action supports generally play pretty well. I think this plays very, very well with what he wants to do. Then we've got Magnetic Bubble. Very, very strong card. 3-cost upgrade, magnetic superpower. Magneto gains Retaliate 1 with the forced interrupt of when you would take any amount of damage, place it here. Then if there is at least 6 damage here, discard Magnetic Bubble. So if you have the ability to... I guess protection is probably the place for this now that I stopped to think about it. But basically, if you have the way to mitigate damage, this can just give you Retaliate 1 for all of, maybe half of the game. Like you could just very well be very well protected. If you have a way to just constantly lower the amount of damage, if you are just bumping up his defense stats so that it is 3, maybe 4, just great. You're doing great things. There is a card that if you have full health, it has Iron Man on it, and I don't remember what pack it's from, but if you have full health, you have Retaliate 1, so then suddenly this is Retaliate 2. Yeah, I would say this is a very good card. It is a build-around card. It will do good work. It will do even more work if you're building around the idea that this is going to be something you're going to do. And if you have, what's that called? Is that Superpower Training? It's a side scheme from the X-Force Wave. I believe it can find this. I think it just looks for an identity-specific upgrade. Either way, if you build around this, it will be great. You don't have to build around it, but when you do, it will be a good time. And once again, like many of the cards that I often highlight, it is a story maker, if nothing else. Then we've got Magneto's Helmet, a 3-cost upgrade, Armor Magnetic. Magneto gains Steady and a hero resource of Exhaust Magneto's Helmet. Generate a wild resource for a magnetic card. You have plenty of targets for that ability. I have run into situations where, very similar to X-Gene, this just doesn't do anything for you, and it's just sitting there, although in this case it's giving you Steady, so you're probably pretty well off. And I think even just having Steady to begin with is already enough that, like, if you see this card, you just try to get it out, because there will always be the option to use it for a wild resource, but the fact that you will always have Steady is almost guaranteed throughout the entire scenario. I would say that if you run into a caught off guard situation, you're probably throwing this out instead of Magnetic Bubble or the card we're going to talk about next. This is probably the lower hanging fruit, but for the most part, great card, and it actually ranks up pretty high there. And now that I'm stopping to think about my favorite cards, I feel like we're sort of in the middle of a trio of cards that kind of all orbit around my favorite card. Although I think the next one is actually my favorite card in his kit as we speak, and that is Magneto's Cape. Okay, we are in the middle of 4 cards that I think all orbit around. Today, as I sit here, this is my favorite card. The next card is part of that 4-part pillars of... His upgrades are all awesome. So I'm sorry, we're getting distracted here. Magneto's Cape is a 2-cost upgrade, Armor Magnetic. Magneto gains the aerial trait and response after you resolve your magnetic pull ability, exhaust Magneto's cape, ready Magneto. So because you can choose to do the magnetic pull at whatever point is advantageous for you, this means that you can make a basic thwart, a basic attack. You could have made a basic defense during the villain phase, and this just allows you to ready back up. That is very good. I don't know in general if I understood the ceiling on this card. This is actually really, really good in a way that I think I undersold, which is weird because the ability to ready back up is kind of a very common occurrence, but usually it's tied to an event or it's tied to an upgrade that doesn't do as much. But gaining the aerial trait, I think, is also deceptive. It's also very, very good. And yeah, it's hard because I already feel like, as we're looking at everything, these are already 3 very powerful cards. With the cape sort of edging them out, I feel it's hard. It's indescribable what this card can do because this can just do so much work. That said, Magneto's armor is also very, very good. And I will say that it's neck and neck. All 4 of his upgrades at any given day could be my favorite card, basically because of like a really good experience from the last game I played with Magneto. Magneto's armor is a 2-cost upgrade, armor magnetic, with the responsibility of, after you resolve the magnetic pull ability, if you discarded at least one of the following resources: mental, Magneto gets +1 thwart till the end of the round; physical, Magneto gets +1 attack till the end of the round; and energy, Magneto gets +1 defense till the end of the round. This is where the YouTube video that I talked about earlier, I think also didn't mention this, but this also kind of went through my mind as I was listening to the person's reasoning. Because if you have a 50 card deck with Magneto, and you can potentially discard more cards on the top of your deck with magnetic pull, you can hit more of these. Granted, you're only going to get boost once for each one of the resource types, but if you're able to turn them into a 3/3/3 hero, that's great. And unfortunately, the only thing that kind of gets me is that these 2 combo together, but they don't combo together the way that might be the most advantageous. You have to use magnetic pull to activate this. You sort of already want to be exhausted when you do magnetic pull, which means that you've potentially missed out on an activation or a basic power for Magneto's cape to ready you back up. That said, if we are splitting so many hairs that only getting 5 attack or 5 thwart is a problem, then I think there are other things that we could be kind of splitting hairs upon. These 2 cards are incredible. They combo together. Like I said, they combo together. They don't combo together like 100%, but they combo together enough that it's like, this is just great. And like I said, I really like this. I think that overall, Magneto's cape is probably going to be more consistent for you because you're always going to know what it's going to do. But Magneto's armor, like I said, can make you a 3/3/2 hero or 3s across the board. In those moments, you can be very happy with what has occurred. If you have some kind of way to, like, the leadership hero, the leadership minion, Domino, being able to set up the top card of your discard pile, or the top card of your deck, that's even better, which I would recommend that. I recommend Legion as well. But either way, cool card. It's hard because I do feel like I'm very attached to all 4 of his equipment. But let's go look at an example deck so that you understand some next steps about what you can do with Magneto. All right, here we are looking at an example deck. And like I've said in the past, I would much rather that my example decks be coming out of the community. Unfortunately, especially with a hero that is as new as this, there's so many packs that are available that I don't blame people for basically going all out and not really kind of dialing it back to create something that is a little bit more beginner friendly. And I've even realized now that, like, putting it as a theme deck is probably more appropriate, but we'll even break it down here real quick. This is sorted by set. So we've got 6 cards from the core set, 21 cards from Magneto, 1 card from Miss Marvel, which I think was supposed to be... So yeah, this comes out of the Storm deck either way. So we got 1 card from Miss Marvel and or Storm, 2 cards from Mutant Genesis, 4 cards from Next Evolution, and 6 cards from Storm, or 7 cards from Storm. So try to keep this simple and okay. So, and then the additional thing was, like I said, I wanted to take this from somebody in the community, and what I ended up doing was taking this deck into account. So I liked what they were doing. I liked the bare bones of what they had, and I basically just took out some of these because, like, Captain America is just not something that I think is going to be something to offer to the greater new player community. And Age of Apocalypse only had 1 card in it, so we just diverted away, edited it up a little bit, and changed it into this, which only has 4 packs that you need to have. Well, I guess the core set, Magneto, and 3 other packs. If you're looking to build this deck, this is just a direction that you can go in. You don't have to buy into all of this, or this can just be a list of like, okay, well, maybe I want to get Mutant Genesis, maybe I want to get Gambit, maybe I want to get Next Evolution. I would recommend any of the like campaign expansions just because they come with more heroes and they come with scenarios, and that's always great. But let's get into this real quick because we've already been long-winded. Let's talk about these cards. So we've got Forge. He's a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health, X-Men traded. Response after Forge enters play, search your deck and discard pile for an X-Men or X-Force support and add it to your hand, and then shuffle. So the nice thing about all of these, well, one, all of these all of these allies are X-Men traded, which will be important later, but that means that he's able to grab you the X-Jet, he's able to grab you the, it's a team. Does he only grab me the X-Jet? Was that really? I mean, I'm not going to poo-poo that because the X-Jet is very powerful, but overall, yes, he's just an ally that, as I said before, Magneto is pretty good at recursion, and so if you can just get Forge out real cheap, you can go grab your X-Jet, and you'll be off to the you'll be in good hands. Maybe it was the example deck had more of these. Oh, the example deck had Utopia. That is a very potent card to go grab. I don't blame anybody for not grabbing Utopia. But then let's move on to M, who, oh yeah, she doesn't have art. I'll put that in here. So M is a X-Men traded minion, or X-Men traded ally, 4 cost, 3 attack, 2 thwart, 4 health, and the Psionic and X-Men traits. Response after M enters play, defeat a minion with fewer remaining hit points than M. So if you were to get something like, if you were out of some kind of way so that she comes into play with more health, which I do believe that Uncanny X-Men, yes, as long as each ally has, each one of our allies is going to get +1 hit points. So that means M can take down more things. Well, shoot. And we'll get into everything there real quick. But like, M is just a very potent ally to throw into play. She takes out a minion, does not need to be non-elite. So if you like I said, if you can boost her health up naturally, so she comes into play, she has more health, you can take out more minions, and that's just powerful. Not to mention the fact that she can get in 2 really good attacks for 2. She's the kind of minion that I would not have a problem with throwing upgrades onto so that she gets more health. Which, beyond just her responsibility, but like just while she's in play, she has more health, she deals more damage, she has higher thwart, whatever it may be. If I could put sidekick on her, I would, but you can't. Then we've got Pixie, who very much, I loved this because I had kind of forgotten about Pixie. She is a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 2 health. She is aerial in the X-Men trait and responsive after you play Pixie from your hand. Add a X-Men ally from your discard pile to your hand. So because we are going through our deck, we are putting cards from the top of our deck into our discard pile, we are going to hit some X-Men allies. Pixie allows you to buy them back at the cost of 2, and you also get a body. So she is akin to Maria Hill in the fact that she is getting you card advantage in that way, but this is a selective card advantage. You also know what you're getting. You can plan for it. And yeah, I mean, she can attack for 2 and just go away, or you can keep her around as a body to just thwart once and then do another defense, but you bought back a X-Men ally, so you're kind of ahead anyway. Professor X, classic card, 3 cost, 0 attack, 3 thwart, 3 health. Psionic X-Men, the health really doesn't matter because he has the force ability of when Professor X enters play, choose to either confuse the villain, stun a minion, or ready an X-Men character at the end of the round, so at the end of the villain phase. If Professor X is still in play, discard him. So the normal play pattern here is to play him out, do one of these. Maybe you're going to ready up Magneto because you've done some great work with his upgrades and he's suddenly got 3 thwart or 3 attack, and he's just poised for that. Maybe you're just going to confuse the villain and just make a really good time of it, or stun. Do whatever you want to do. Thwart for 3. That's really stellar. Just have him thwart for 3. Then he sits there and he just makes a basic defense for you so that you just bought yourself more time. Maybe you confuse the villain. Now you can switch down to alter ego, what have you. The one thing that I always have to keep in mind is when Professor X comes into play, you don't have to stay in hero form, but you kind of get a free stay in hero form. It can be very nice to switch alter ego, get the benefits of alter ego, but then Professor X is just going to go away. In multiplayer, that changes a little bit because you can throw Professor X in front of another player. Either way, you want to use him just as a scapegoat. He's going to go away anyway, so why not throw him in the way of an attack? And last card, a new card out of the Magneto pack, is Emma Frost, the White Queen. 3 cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 3 health, psionic and X-Men again. Play only if you have the X-Men, if you have the X-Force or X-Men trait, same difference. After White Queen enters play, discard a status card from a player. So that can be removing a tough from the villain, that can be removing a confused from yourself or from a friend. Great card. I will say that looking at the 3, granted we've got M who's cost 4, but it's not anything that's going to be kind of getting in your way, but she is a little bit expensive, but she kind of comes with the juice. Like, she only takes 1 consequential damage, she has 3 health, she can do a lot of thwarting, she can do some attacking, and she just cleared up a status counter for you in some way that was beneficial to you. I would say, for the most part, for a X-Men deck, she is, because she's basic, she's pretty close to a staple, and I think should be getting more attention. I don't know that she's really gotten the attention that she deserves. She's a pretty good card. Then we've got the event, To Me My X-Men, a 1-cost event. Tactic, play only if you have the X-Men trait. Hero action, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an X-Men ally and put it into your hand. If that ally is still in play at the end of the round, add it to your hand. Oh, we put it into play. I'm sorry, I might have misspoke there. You put it into play. I might have already said that. I might have crossed my tongue there. Either way, we only have 5 allies, so this has the potential to miss, but because you're able to recur cards so easily, you are probably going to hit something worthwhile here. And if you can get Professor X out, you can do everything he did. If you get Emma Frost out, Emma Frost's response wasn't good to pay for her, right? She just enters play, yeah. So basically all of these, this is if you played from your hand. So enters play. So yeah, 4 out of the 5 allies here are going to give you something good. And once again, Forge is kind of the lame duck here, but if you can go get the X-Jet because he was in your discard pile and you shuffled him back into your deck or what have you, like, they all have beneficial effects. This just pays off those. Then we've got Make the Call, which as soon as I saw this in the example deck or in the other person's deck, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is the deck that I think needs to have the attention. Make the Call, 0-cost event from the core set. Pay the printed cost of an ally in any player's discard pile. Put that ally into play under your control. We are throwing cards into our discard pile. Make the Call says, I don't care where your ally is, just get him into play. And the only one that we care about here is Pixie. She will, because she wants to be played from hand, she will not use her effect. But at that point, you've gotten back Pixie, so you must have not had any other options because Pixie was going to bring you back an ally anyway. If there was a different ally in the discard pile, you just pick them. Then we've got Squared Off, which another great... Magneto was such a boon for leadership. 0-cost event, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a minion. Put that minion into play, engage with you. Play an ally from your hand, reducing its cost by 3. So suddenly M is very inexpensive. Everything else is just free. that's great. White Queen comes into play, Professor X comes into play, M comes into play for a cost of 1. Maybe she defeats that minion, and now you just got M in play. I love this card. I have used it in many other decks, and it's a selling point for Magneto. Superpower Training, which I believe I added to this deck from the example deck, is a 1-cost player side scheme, 3 threat per player, victory on it, and when defeated, each player may search their deck and discard pile for an identity-specific upgrade, no cost requirement there, put it into play. So this is where you can just go get any of his upgrades that I was singing the high praises of, that you can see right here. Any of them that I was singing the high praises of, you can just go grab. You can go grab Wrapped in Metal and just immediately disarm a minion. That's pretty cool. But yeah, this is just fun, and the only downside here is that in solo, short of his armor giving you a boost to your thwart, you might not potentially be able to just wipe this out the turn you play it. And I would say most player side schemes, you want to have that kind of be your game plan. Is player side scheme comes into play, you already know how you're going to get it back off the table. Digging Deep. Love this resource. Hope it sees a reprint. It is a resource that creates a wild, but it has a responsibility of when this card is discarded from the top of your deck, add it to your hand. So in Magneto, this is just great because you're using magnetic pull ability. You flip this over along with something else, and this goes back to your hand. So you're drawing 2 cards in that way. If you happen to hit more than 1 Digging Deep, you're just adding more and more to your hand. This is like I said, this is a great resource. It has its place, but I sing its praises. It's great. Basic resources: Energy, Genius, Strength, Asteroid M, we've already talked about. X-Jet, we've kind of already alluded to, but it's just a really good basic staple card for the X-Men. 3 cost with the vehicle and X-Men trait, exhaust the X-Jet, generate a wild resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. So you can just give this out to somebody else. You don't need to hog it yourself. In a solo game, it's just always going to make you stuff when you are in your hero form. In a multiplayer game, you can be an alter ego, use this as a resource, give it to somebody, your Cyclops player, your Jean Grey player, what have you. The only thing to keep in mind here is, short of the upgrade that just gives every X-Men, X-Force, and X-Factor all those traits, if you're playing with Angel or you're playing with Psylocke, you just need to remember they are not X-Men unless you've already augmented that in some way. Uncanny X-Men through leadership support for 3, team trait, and play under any player's control, max 1 team card per player, and each of your X-Men allies gets +1 health. That's helpful with M. And if each of your characters has the X-Men trait, each of your X-Men allies costs 1 fewer resource to play. So that's not a huge deal because we have quite a few inexpensive ones. But still, at the same time, taking Professor X or White Queen, making them only cost 2, having M only cost 3, that plays well with Squared Off. That just plays well with itself. And that extra health is just nice because you want to get as much use out of them as you can. And then the one of won't stay down. Play only if your identity has the X-Force or X-Men trait, max 1 per player. Alter ego action, discard this card, return an X-Force or X-Men ally from your discard pile to your hand. This is just nice because we love the allies we have in this deck, and they are already in the discard pile. So we are going to have a way to get them back super easily, and yeah, just great. And then the 1-off Endurance, just to give him a little extra health. His health isn't horrible, but at the same time, why not have extra 3 health? And yeah, this is in the Storm deck as well, so you don't have to worry about the Ms. Marvel part here. But yeah, that is the deck. I think this is a pretty good first step. Like I said, when we broke it down by pack, some of these you just got to overlook. I think the one that I would say, if I were to skip out on anything, I hate to say don't get Professor X, but Mutant Genesis might be the one where I feel like it adds the least importance. You can find 2 other cards. But yeah, overall, this is the deck. I think it's pretty great. Check it out for yourself. And let's get back to talking about the Nemesis and Obligation. And we are back to talk about the Nemesis Kit and Obligation. We are starting with Old Grievances, a Obligation with give to the Erik Lehnsherr player. Forced response: after you use your magnetic pull ability, take 1 damage for each card discarded by it. And an alter ego action of exhaust Erik Lehnsherr, discard old grievances. So this does not allow you to just free flip to alter ego. This does allow you to use the magnetic pull, but you use the magnetic pull at your own risk because that could defeat you out of nowhere if you just go through too many cards. I think this is a pretty cool obligation. I will also say that, who was it? This is another one where I've absorbed enough content that I'm questioning. This might have been a Daring Line video. Somebody, once again, somebody in like the last 2 weeks had pointed out that like obligation designs, I've been a little heavy-handed about them, that like, oh, this is so basic. But at the end of the day, I do think that there is something to basic obligations that say like there should be just a correct answer. And the correct answer here is to go down to alter ego, exhaust Erik Lehnsherr so that you don't have to take any damage from the magnetic pull. It's okay for there to be an obvious answer because that helps a new player learn to make correct decisions. If there's a obvious answer, they can feel smart. They go, oh, I figured it out. I figured out what I'm supposed to do here. You can play around this. You can just be very risky, but the right decision is probably to just go to alter ego, exhaust Erik Lehnsherr, maybe get something off of Asteroid M, and continue on with your game. It's just supposed to be a speed bump, and this is a pretty uniquely designed speed bump. Then we've got his Nemesis, Exodus, and the side scheme of Martyr for Mutants. So Exodus is a 2-scheme, 2-attack minion with the Acolyte, Elite, Psionic traits, and 6 health. He's got Steady, Toughness, and Villainous. He's going to be very hard to take down. He's potent. And the force response of after Exodus attacks you, discard cards from the top of your deck equal to his total attack. So if he gets boosted at all, this can be pretty bad. Losing 2 cards is not the end of the world. You'll probably even be able to grow some of them back with your alter ego, and you won't even really feel like you've really been hit that hard. But at the same time, it can be a little much, and especially if it pushes you into getting an extra encounter card, that's where the sting is going to come out. Then we've got his side scheme, a Martyr for Mutants, a side scheme with 3 threat per player. And when defeated, the defeating player discards the top 9 cards of their deck, and then it's got an amplify icon. So once again, I've played against the Horseman enough to know that losing 10 cards from your deck definitely hurts. It's not the end of the world. Drawing through your entire deck is not a lose condition in this game. So this is just more of like, oh, unfortunately, I'm moving that much closer to an encounter card. It's just an unfortunate thing that I essentially now have to like re-dig through. If there's a card that I really needed, I now have to dig through it again. But if you are offsiding it like we did with our example deck, you have something like Digging Deep, which is just going to put a wild resource back in your hand. You're going to feel great. This is rough. You've got a tough villain, or you got a tough villainous minion, and a side scheme that if it comes out at the right time, you're going to need to address it, and you're going to lose 9 cards. That's just how it's going to be. Then we've got, they're all one-ofs. Then we've got Frenzy, a minion with 2 scheme, 2 attack, 4 health, the Acolyte trait, and Quick Strike. And the force response of after Frenzy attacks you, discard the top 2 cards of your deck. Again, the Acolytes are just feeding off of that. And a boost ability of discard the top 4 cards of your deck. So if this happens to come up during an attack or a scheme, it's just taking the top cards of your deck and just tossing them away. Nothing too critical about this. It is something to keep in mind. Like once you've hit your Shadow of the Past or you're pursued by the past variant or whatever it is, you do have to think to yourself like, okay, Quick Strike is now on the table. Especially as a Thor player, I'm very used to the thought of like, if there's a guard or a patrol or a Quick Strike minion that I could hit with Defender of the Nine Realms, how is that going to affect me? Now, as you move into the villain phase, you have to say, the entire table has to ask themselves, I am at 2 health. How big is the encounter deck? Could Quick Strike do me in? Do I have a minion that could block? All these questions. 2 damage is not the end of the world, but it's something to consider, and I don't want to just write that off. We've got Fabian Cortez, who is a acolyte to Magneto, although he's definitely doing something here. 2 scheme, 2 attack, 4 health. Again, Acolyte. He has the guard trait, so once again, that's something to keep in mind once you've got these shuffled into the deck. And a when defeated trigger of the defeating player discards the top 4 cards of the deck, and a boost ability of discard the top 4 cards of your deck. So yeah, the Acolytes here, just in general, just want to mess with you, just want to take cards away from you and push you towards encounter cards. And I would say that Magneto kind of bends pretty well to this because he already puts cards into his discard pile, so he's going to be able to kind of recoup them anyway. But that doesn't avoid the fact that this can just be an annoying effect. And because there are 3 minions in this encounter set, that means that you're probably going to feel their effect at some point, and you're not going to just be able to write it off. But yeah, overall, I'm not too scared of this guy. I can just throw a magnetic missile at him. And last card for today is Angry Acolyte. Angry Acolyte. A treachery with when revealed, each Acolyte minion engaged with a player activates against that player. If no minions activated this way, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until an Acolyte minion is discarded. Reveal that minion. A lot to say. This is another one that's like a little bit like you just have to take it with a grain of salt, whatever happens. It sucks when you have a minion and they get to make an extra activation against you that you weren't counting on. Those do end up with stories where you lose the game, but for the most part, I'm not too concerned about this. You just shuffle it into the deck and then find it, and I think that's one of the things about a Nemesis kit that can be difficult to kind of parse out is in the situation where you were unlucky enough to draw a particular treachery, you then shuffle this into your deck and you have to draw it again, or you then have to draw it. I would even say that the fact that it has 2 boost icons on it might be more relevant because it can just bump up the amount of boost icons in the deck and maybe push that average up a little bit. But either way, scary but not frightening. I don't know what that means. All right, but there we have it. That is Magneto. I think he's a very strong hero, and I'm going to just say now that I think that my favorite card is probably still going to remain his cape. I think that he's a great hero. I think that he is. I think the deck he comes with is pretty strong, and I think that he has a lot of building blocks that, like, if you have the core set, you can build off of him in an exciting way that I think will be powerful. And he's got a combo built into his hero kit, so you are going to be able to have those fun moments. But either way, that's all I have for you today. I will see you next week in our next video when I think I will be talking about it'll be either Maria Hill or Nick Fury. Either way, we're moving into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wave. I'm excited about it. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.